Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this session of the Bhagavad Gita overview. Today we are going to have an overview of chapter 18, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, perfection of renunciation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tadho Jayamudire Nashta Prayeshwa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Mande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Dinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunivadi Paschatya Desatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, chapter 18 is Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, and this chapter is actually a conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 18 actually summarizes the contents of the entire Gita. Srila Prabhupada explains that the Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters and the 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of topics discussed before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. That same point is summarized in the 18th chapter as the most confidential path of knowledge. So, as in the second chapter, a synopsis of the whole subject matter was described, the 18th chapter also a summary of all instruction is given. So, this is how Prabhupada speaks about this 18th chapter. 18th chapter is quite a long chapter in terms of number of verses. Totally, we have 78 shlokas in chapter 18. The first 12 shlokas, Krishna is summarizing the first 6 chapters, the karma section of Bhagavad Gita. And then from 13th to 18th shloka, Krishna is speaking about the summary of chapter 13 to chapter 70, Jnana. And then from 19th to the 40th shloka, how the 3 modes of material nature is controlling all the activities. How one moves from Sakama to Nishkama Karma Yoga, that gets discussed from 41 to 48. 49 to 55, from Nishkama Karma through liberation to devotional service. And then 56 to 60 shloka, working in pure devotional service. 61 to 63, more confidential knowledge, which is surrender to Paramatma. 64, 65, 66, most confidential knowledge of all, that is to become a pure devotee of Krishna. 67 to 71, preaching and studying of the Bhagavad Gita. Sloka 72, 73, Arjuna gets fixed. 74 to 78 is Sanjaya concluding the whole session. This is how 18th chapter is structured. So, in the beginning of the chapter itself, Arjuna is asking Krishna that he wants to understand the purpose of Tyaga and Sannyasa. Arjuna wants to know the purpose of Tyaga and Sannyasa. And Krishna will answer. Krishna says that giving up of activities that are based on material desire is what great men call as sannyas. And giving up results of activities is what the wise call as tyaga. And some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up as faulty, yet other sages maintain that sacrifice, charity and penance should never be abandoned. So different viewpoints about sannyasa and tyaga Krishna discusses. Giving up activity, some people are saying, others are saying, no, you should maintain yajna, dana and tapas. Then finally Krishna says, my judgment, O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. Acts of sacrifice, charity and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity and penance purify even the great souls. You see? So Krishna is saying some things you cannot give up. That is yajna, dana and tapasya will elevate even pure personalities, is what Krishna is saying. And then he says, Krishna's final opinion, he says, all these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. And they should be performed as a matter of duty. That is my final opinion. So this final opinion, we have to take it as the final opinion, because beyond this there is no Bhagavad Gita, right? So what Krishna says here as the final opinion, that all these activities should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result and performed as a matter of duty. You see, because if you actually give up your niyata karma, then it is actually in the mode of ignorance or tamoguna. And if you are going to give it up because it is very uncomfortable, then that also is not good, because that is happening in rajoguna. That is, if you give it up, niyata karma is given up because it brings me some trouble. So that is giving up in the mode of rajoguna. And when one performs his prescribed duty only because it should be done, and renounces all material association and attachment to the fruits, that renunciation is said to be in the mode of goodness. So renunciation done in the mode of goodness is the best according to Krishna. And then he says that it is impossible for an embodied being to give up all activities, but he who renounces the fruits of action is called one who has truly renounced. You see? So don't give up activities. Krishna is very, 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 very clear. Don't give up activities. What we should give up? We should give up the fruits of the action. That is actual renunciation. And whatever comes, for one who is renounced, whether the fruit of action is desirable, undesirable or mixed desirable and undesirable, they will not have any such result, either to suffer or to enjoy. Why? Because they are not attached to it. And then Krishna quotes Vedanta. Krishna says, according to Vedanta, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all actions. You see. So this is very, very important jnana for all of us, And this jnana includes that 5th element, what we call as the 5th element, or the 5th cause, as we call it. Krishna is discussing here 5 causes for accomplishment of all actions. And what are those 5 causes? The place of action, which is the body, the performer of the action, which is the soul, the various senses, they are also one cause for accomplishing action. Many different kinds of endeavor, the effort that you put in. And then 5th is the Paramatma. So 5 causes for accomplishing any action. You need the body, you need you to be sitting inside the body, the senses that will impel the action, and then our endeavor to get that action done. And then 5th, the Paramatma. So this Paramatma is the Lord of everything in this material world, you see. And he is actually controlling the other 4 factors. We should understand that. So anything that happens is caused by these 5 factors. And if somebody is thinking that I am doing without considering the 5 factors, Krishna says he is not intelligent. So how does one work? Krishna says, not motivated by false ego, without getting the intelligence entangled. So such a person, Krishna says, even though he kills men in this world, he does not kill, nor is he bound by his actions. This is directly to Arjuna he is saying that previously you were saying I will not fight. Why? Because of your false ego. You are telling you will not fight. Now understand. Now that you have understood everything, now if you act, now even if you kill, you are not killing. Because you are not bound by that action, because you are acting on authority, higher authority. The simple example that we can take is that when a soldier who is serving in the army, he gets an order from the higher authority to go on war, and he kills people in war in the opposing army. And when he comes back, he is honored with medals, depending on the number of people he kills and the valor he showed. This same soldier, he takes leave, he gets leave, he goes home. He gets angry with his neighbor and kills him. He will be put in jail. You see? So, same action he has done. There also he killed, here also he killed. For one killing, he gets honored, he gets medals. For the other killing, he gets sent to jail. So, this is a simple example of understanding the desire of the Paramatma and acting on our own. Okay? And then Krishna speaks about the constituents of action. He says Jnana, Jnaya and the Jnani. That is 3 factors that motivate action. And according to the 3 modes, there are 3 kinds of knowledge, 3 kinds of action and 3 kinds of performance of action. This we already know because we studied this in 14, 16, 17 chapters. How the 3 modes, how you act and what are the results. And Krishna will repeat practically those same details. Krishna will repeat from this 18th shloka till 28 shlokas. Krishna speaks about how these 3 modes of action will work and how based on these 3 modes of action somebody accomplishes work and what are the results. So this is again a revision of what Krishna has already discussed. And then Krishna speaks about, he says, I will tell you in detail the different kinds of understanding and determination. Again, this is a repetition from the 16, 17, 14 chapters. Okay, that understanding that what to be done, what not to be done, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, what is binding, what is liberating, that is mode of goodness, and that which cannot distinguish between dharma and adharma, that which cannot distinguish between what is to be done and what is not to be done, that is in the mode of rajoguna. And what makes you consider adharma to be dharma and the opposite, that is tamoguna. So all these things are propelling the living entity into action in the material world. And in every one of these things, the 3 modes are acting. Correct? 3 modes are acting. And determination also same way. That if you are so determined to hold on to the results of your activity, results of your action, that is this dharma and artha and kama. These 3 are in the mode of rajoguna. There are 4 purusharthas that are discussed in Vedic literature: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Okay, in this you perform dharma in order to get artha so that your kama can be taken care of. These 3 are actually in the mode of passion, rajoguna. Even though you are dharmic, even though you do dharma karya, if the intention is that I want to gain, I want to get some Aishwarya, it is Rajoguna. And with that Aishwaryam, what do I do? With all that facility that I am getting, what do? I enjoy my life. You see. But in this, what is the positive? At least you are going by dharma. Okay. But fact remains that you are in Rajoguna. Okay. And then Krishna speaks about the three kinds of happiness that you get, and this is very nice. Krishna says, that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. You see, this is very important for us. That in the beginning, just like poison. So, take for instance our devotional life, our devotional activities, our spiritual endeavors. In the beginning, because we are all used to just doing our work, getting results of that work, enjoying the results. And when we become exposed for the first time to the Bhagavad Gita, and then we go through all these things, then we understand that spirituality is something that needs to be cultivated, and that will give you ultimate happiness. And then we will try and understand what are the things that we need to do to become spiritually advanced. So in that, for Kali Yuga, the most important thing that is recommended for us is to chant the holy names of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This mantra, iti shodashakam namnam kalikalmashanashanam. So this 16 syllable mantra is actually Kali Kalmashanashanam. In Kali Yuga, whatever impurities are there will all be removed by this mantra, by the chanting of this mantra. So this is the most fundamental thing. So in this, what are we expected to give? What are we expected to sacrifice? What is our tapasya? At the same time, this is a sacrifice. This is a yajna and this is a tapasya. What are you sacrificing? The time that we give for many other activities, that we will sacrifice. That some time we will sacrifice out of that and give it to the chanting of the holy name. Correct? And this is not something that immediately comes to us. That, oh, when I chant, I am getting all the Ashtasattvika Vikaras that you will have, your hair standing on end and eyes, tears coming out of the eyes and kampana of the body and all these different Vikaras one is expected to have when one is completely matured in one's bhakti. But we don't get any of those things. While we chant Hare Krishna, our mind is traveling all over the world and mind is going through every problem that we are facing. So trying to bring that mind and to be able to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that is a great tapasya. And then we are expected to follow the basic 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no taking of intoxicants, to avoid gambling, to avoid illicit sex. So when somebody is used to any of these things, to give it up, when somebody suddenly you are told that you cannot do these things or you are supposed to give up these things, this will all sound very bitter. You see? So this is what Krishna is meaning here, that in the beginning it will be like poison, but in the end like nectar, and it will awaken you to self-realization. You see, this process will awaken us to self-realization. So this is something based on the mode of goodness and even beyond, especially the chanting of the holy name is beyond the mode of goodness. It's above and beyond the mode of goodness on Suddha Sattva. But the other things, the regulative principles that we are expected to follow is actually to bring us to that Sattva level. So that in the beginning is very bitter, but later on we will understand what great happiness is there in that. And then Krishna goes on to explain that happiness that you get, by enjoying the senses, it will be in the beginning, it will be very sweet, and in the end it will become poison. You see. So all those things that give us enjoyment, sense enjoyment especially. So at the beginning of things, it will all be very, very, great. But it is like diminishing return of marginal utility in economics, The first orange is sweet, second orange is sweet, the third orange is sweet. But when you eat the fourth orange, you will feel that it's not very sweet. Fifth orange, less sweet. By sixth orange, you are fed up eating orange. You see. This is how material activity is. And those things, those happiness which is actually blind to self-realization and it is actually delusion from beginning to end, that is tamoguna. So such happiness should not even be contemplated upon. And then Krishna says that there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. You see. So now Krishna is developing that summary of all the chapters, First 6 chapters he explained karma and how detached work is freeing us from bondage. Then next the jnana chapters, where work free of reaction is explained from the point of view of jnana. Okay, and then he spoke about the three modes of material nature. Now there is the progressive journey through karma and jnana to realizing Paramatma. And then we will come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, which is bhakti. So Krishna continues how these three modes and how the varnas are situated. The varnas, chatur varnas. Krishna says, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures and in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of enemy. And then he goes on to explain what is the quality of the work in each varna. This is very important for us to know. Samo damas tapassaucham kshantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavacham. So, the qualities by which Brahmanas work: sama, peacefulness; dama, self-control; tapa, tapasya or austerity; shaucham, purity; kshantihi, tolerance; arjavam, honesty; jnanam, knowledge; vijnanam, wisdom; and astikyam means religiousness. So, these are the qualities that is seen in the work of a Brahmana, and a Brahmana is expected to cultivate these qualities and teach these qualities. Brahmana is supposed to do patana, patana, yajana, yajana. That means he should do patana, he should study and he should teach. Yajana, he should perform sacrifice and he should make others perform sacrifice. And then for the Kshatriya, Sauryam tejo dhrirdaksham yuddhe chapya palayanam danam ishwara bhavascha kshatram karma swabhavajam. So heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness. Apalayanam means courage in battle, don't run away from battle. Generosity and leadership are the natural qualities for Kshatriyas. So in the Kshatriyas there is one quality, danam ishwara bhavascha. Kshatriyas should have this Ishwara Bhava or ability to control others. And this ability a Kshatriya uses not for exploitation but to protect. You see, so that is Kshatriya Bhava. And then for Vaishyas, they are expected to do farming, Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam. So he is supposed to do farming, cow protection and Vanijya, give and take, trading. These are the natural things for Vaishyas. And for the Shudras, there is labor and service to others. A Shudra means he is less intelligent than these three classes of people. So he will serve these three classes of people in various capacities. Then Krishna says, by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. That means whether it is a Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya or Shudra, everybody has a chance for perfection. It is not that only somebody can become perfect, somebody cannot become perfect. No. Why? Because whether it is Shudra, whether it is Vaishya, Kshatriya or Brahmana, Paramatma is there with everybody and he is equal to all. What makes somebody Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra is Guna Karma. Guna and Karma. His qualities that he has by material nature, whatever qualities he has acquired, and the karma that he does. The activities what he does. So, from what we study here, if somebody is doing activities based on, say, Sama, Dama, Saucham, Kshanti, Arjavam, like that, Astikyam, then he can be considered a Brahmana. Or if he is having Shauryam, Balam, Tejas, he is having those kind of attributes, he is considered a Kshatriya. So like that, each one is considered in a certain Varna purely by his quality and by the nature of work that he is doing. And everyone can become perfect by engaging in their Niyata Karma. Krishna says, by worship of the Lord who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. You see? So, whether irrespective of the Varna that one may belong to, by working and surrendering the results of that work to Krishna, one can become perfect. This is the summum bonum of this whole thing. The whole Varnashrama is like that. If you take the four Varnas as I told you, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Okay. And then you take the four ashramas, Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Now what is common for all these things? If you take Brahmachari, he is expected to study. If you take Grahastha, he is expected to maintain household. If he is Vanaprastha, he is supposed to do Prasthanam to the Vana, to the forest, and there simply sit and meditate on the Lord. And then Sannyasa means Sat Nyasa, he is going closer to the truth. Now, whether you are a Brahmana, whether you are Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha or Sannyasi, in every one of these statures, you are expected to worship Vishnu. Ashrama, the word ashrama means the place where Vishnu is worshipped is called ashrama. So, you are Brahmachari, you study and worship Vishnu. You are Grahastha, you maintain your household and worship Vishnu. You are Vanaprasthi, you are going to forest and worshipping only Vishnu. You are Sannyasi, you are serving the society by distributing Gyan, distributing the Lord's teachings, His mercy, and you are worshipping Vishnu. You see? So, by doing work as per one's Varna, as per one's ashrama, one can attain perfection is what Krishna is saying. And then Krishna says, it is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. And then very importantly, Krishna says, every endeavor is covered by some fault, just like fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature, even if such work is full of fault. So, might as well continue with our Niyata Karma, even though we are not performing it perfectly. What Krishna is actually taking is your surrender of the fruits. So, the endeavor may not be perfect. So, the result also may not be perfect. That does not mean we shouldn't endeavor properly and get proper result. But even if there is some deficiency, Krishna is willing to accept. You know, Krishna is willing to accept us as half blind, one leg not working, one hand not working, doesn't matter. But as long as the work is very, very sincere, the effort is sincere, Krishna will accept. Krishna says, one who is self-controlled and unattached and regards all material enjoyments, disregards all material enjoyments, can obtain the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction simply by practicing Tyaga. And then how one can go up to the level of Brahman, Krishna explains. So this Jnani, how he is coming to the level of Brahman. This also Krishna has discussed earlier in the 6th chapter. By purified by intelligence, controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, freed from attachment, hatred, living in a secluded place, eating little, controlling body, mind and power of speech, who is always in trance, detached, free from false ego, false strength, pride, lust, anger. Such a person is elevated to the position of self-realization, what we call Atma Sakshatkar, realizing our own self. And then what is that platform? This platform is the Brahman platform, or it is called the Brahma Bhuta stage. And what is that Brahma Bhuta stage? Krishna explains in Shloka 54 of 18th chapter. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. So Krishna is saying, Brahma Bhuta, one who is transcendently situated, at once realizes the supreme Brahman. And then what happens? Prasannatma, he becomes fully joyful. And na shochati na kankshati, he neither laments nor desires. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu, he is equally disposed to every living entity. And madbhaktim labhate param, in that stage he attains pure devotional service unto me. Clear? So the Brahma Bhuta person is always Prasannatma. There is no lamentation. Why? He is na shochati na kankshati. Now these two words are very important. Why? Because our life is half this and half this. Our normal regular material life is half shochati, half kankshati. Shochati means lamenting. Lamenting about what? All that we lost up till this moment we will lament. Always crying. Oh, I lost this, I couldn't get this, I didn't do this properly, I failed this exam, I couldn't get through the interview, I didn't get this job, I got the job, I lost it. Lament, 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 lament. This is our life until now. Up till this moment, whatever happened, we are simply lamenting over it. Then kankshati. From the next moment, we have great expectations about life. Tomorrow something big is going to happen in my life. Tomorrow I shall, reclaim all the territory that I have lost in my life. And all that thing that I have lost till now, I will recapture it. So full of desire and anxiety also it brings. Will I be able to take it back? Will I be able to get all these desires fulfilled? That anxiety. So basically all our lives are half lamentation and half expectation. But Brahma Bhuta means no lamentation, no expectation. Whatever happened until now is history. What is the big point in lamenting? But that we will understand only when we get to Brahma Bhuta. You see, that we will have proper understanding. That is self-realization stage. So up till now what happened? Gone. You cannot do anything about it. What is going to happen? You don't know. So why lament about it? You see. So self-realized soul, therefore, he is Prasannatma. He is always very, very joyful. Why? Because he is on the platform of Brahman. He has understood that I am not any of these things. I have actually got nothing to do with these things. They are just there temporarily in front of me, and I am thinking that those are the most important things. Once I come out of this misunderstanding, I become Brahmabhuta. And then in that stage, one can attain pure devotion. So, the Brahmabhuta stage is actually the first stepping stone towards Shuddha Bhakti. This is what we must understand. Not that immediately he gets Shuddha Bhakti, no. From that platform, he will get. And how does that happen? Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvataha tato mam tattvado jnatva vishade tadanantaram. Krishna now says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. And when one becomes, by such devotion, you become fully conscious of Krishna, tato mam tattvato jnatva. That way, in truth, you have understood me. Vishate tadanantaram. You will enter into Krishna's kingdom. See? So, first Brahmabhuta stage, we become free from all this material conception of me, mine, and everything related to me and mine. Get rid of that. Come to Brahmabhuta. At Brahmabhuta stage, start performing devotional service. Start doing bhakti yoga. Start chanting the holy name of Krishna and listening to the holy name of Krishna and listening to the instructions of Krishna, and slowly we will be able to understand Krishna. And then that bhakti service continues. Okay? And then directly Krishna now speaks about bhakti. Krishna says, though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee under my protection reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. Krishna speaks in Shloka 56, he speaks about my pure devotee, my protection, my grace, and my abode. You see? So, Krishna's pure devotee gets protected by Krishna, and by Krishna's grace, he will get to Krishna's abode. You see? So, this is what happens when we actually become a devotee of Krishna. Then in everything Krishna will get involved. Until we become that devotee of Krishna, that Akinchana Bhakta of Krishna, Krishna does not want to get involved. You see? So actually everything that happens to the devotee is simply happening by the grace of Krishna. And Krishna's grace has got so much power, we cannot fathom, we cannot understand. It's achintya, inconceivable for us. How Krishna Kripa works is inconceivable. But rest assured it works. You see? And then Krishna says, what is the practical application of this for Arjuna? So he is saying, Krishna says, in all activities just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So depend upon me, Krishna, work under Krishna's protection, and in such devotional service, be fully conscious of Krishna. You see? So now we may all think, that how do we do that? How do we do that? Why? Because for Arjuna, Krishna is right in front of him. He is giving him all the direction, saying, me, me, me. But in front of you and me, who is there? Right? In front of us, is there Krishna standing? So, Srila Prabhupada teaches us that if simply we act according to the directions of Krishna given in Bhagavad Gita, then we will get the same result. We will get the same result what Arjuna got. So Prabhupada says, simply you act as per Krishna's instruction given in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Through Arjuna, Krishna is actually instructing each and every one of us. That is why in the beginning I said, this is very relevant for each and every one of us, because this is told in a battlefield to a man who is got so much of responsibility that an entire race, an entire Vamsha is depending on him as the most key person in re-establishing Dharma. And there is a whole world waiting for him to do the right thing and ensure that righteousness prevails. So to that person, Krishna is instructing right in the middle of a battlefield. You see? So what more do we need? I am sure none of us are facing this bigger crisis in our life as Arjuna faced. Okay? So if for such a big crisis, if this is Krishna's instructions as given the solution, then what about you and me? Our crises are very, 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 very tiny compared to the crisis that Arjuna is facing. So, simply by listening and following, actually listening means to follow. Okay? Listening means to follow. We give the example, we call our child, come here. If the child comes here, that means he has heard. And what is the result of hearing? He came. But if you call your child, come here, and he simply sits there and looks at you, then you will ask, what will you ask? Are you not listening? You will say. Means if he listens, he should come to you. So when we say listen to Krishna, that means act based on instructions of Krishna. And then we have to work like that and think of Krishna. And whatever duty we have, whatever niyata karma that we have to do, we have to simply consider that I have been appointed by Krishna to do this duty. You see? So when we think like that, automatically we will think of Krishna. And Prabhupada says that is Krishna consciousness. You see? And then what will happen if you follow Krishna's instruction? What will happen if you don't follow Krishna's instruction? 58th sloka, Krishna says, Matchitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi atachetvam ahankaram nasroshyasi vinankshasi. Matchitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. Sarva durgani, whatever durgam you are getting, means whatever obstacles you get. Mat chitta, by being conscious of me, mat prasadat tarishyasi, whatever durgam you are facing, you will always tarishyasi, cross over by my mercy, mat prasadat, by my prasada. And athachetvam ahankaran nasroshyasi vinankshasi. But because you become ahankari and don't listen, nasroshyasi, vinankshasi, simply you will be lost. That's it. So, how will you be lost if you don't listen to Krishna? This is the one shloka where Krishna actually gives a warning, you know. If you do Matchitta sarva durgani, everything I will remove by mat prasadat. If you don't, you will be lost. How will you be lost? If you do not act according to Krishna's direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. He is telling Arjuna that if you don't listen to me and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. Why? Because Arjuna has to fight in proper consciousness, you know. Previously, what was Arjuna's thinking? Arjuna is thinking that I am going to kill Bhishma, Drona and all these, and I am going to get all the reaction. But now he is fixed in proper consciousness because Krishna has told him, I have done the killing. You simply do the shooting of arrows, that's all. You are only performing the ceremony. The actual thing I have done. Okay. And then Krishna further explains that. Under illusion, you are now declining to act under my direction. But compelled by the work born of your nature, you will act all the same. O son of Kunti, that if you don't do this now, what will happen? You will do on your own. And what will happen? You will incur all the reactions. Because your nature is to kill. You have been trained like that. So if you quit the army and go home, and then because of your training you see somebody, if you think that he is your enemy, you will go and kill him. And then you will go to jail. Simple example. So ultimately, who is controlling this illusion? And who is rotating everyone through this Janana Marana Chakra? Krishna says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe. He says, among Sarva Bhutanam, among all the living entities, Krishna says, I am situated as Ishvara. And what am I doing? Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. Everybody is sitting inside this body which is called Yantra, which is a Yantra, which is a machine. Arudhani, you are sitting, and this is made of Maya. And what am I doing? Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani. So I am directing the wandering of all these living entities sitting in their body. So Krishna is saying that you should surrender to that Ishvara, and by that you will attain peace and the supreme abode. And then Krishna will now explain the most confidential knowledge. Krishna will say, this is very, very more confidential knowledge. And think of this, Arjuna, and deliberate and then do what you wish to do. This is also very, very important for us, that Sanatana Dharma, this is where Sanatana Dharma differs from everything else, that Krishna is ultimately leaving it to Arjuna's intelligence. He says, deliberate fully and decide what you want to do. So this is how we get the directions. Because Krishna has fully explained, you do this, this will happen. You do this way, this will happen. You don't do this, this will happen. Everything explained. Now he is telling Arjuna, you deliberate. You think over it. You meditate on it. You understand, absorb and then act. And he says, because you are my very dear friend, I am giving this supreme instruction, that is most confidential knowledge of all. After saying that in Shloka 64, in 65, Krishna speaks the most important, most confidential of all knowledge. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane prayosi me. Think of me, become my devotee, madhyaji, worship me, mam namaskuru, offer your namaskaram to me, mam evaishyasi satyam te, thus you will come to me without fail. And I promise this, pratijane, because prayosime, you are very, very dear to me. So we all want to be very dear to Krishna. So we should always think of Krishna. We should become devotee of Krishna. We should worship Krishna. We should offer our namaskaram to Krishna. And if we do that, Krishna says we are dear to him and we will go back to him without fail. And then, so for that, should we undergo renunciation, austerity, all those things? Krishna says in Shloka 66, this is the most famous shloka of Bhagavad Gita. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचा. Ma shucha, do not fear. Mokshayishyami sarva papebhyaha. So from all papas I will deliver you. Aham tvam, I will deliver you from all papas. Simply you have to do sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Give up all different type of dharmas and do that ultimate dharma of surrendering to me. Surrendering to me, me alone. You see? Surrender to Krishna alone. That is the topmost dharma. So we don't have to wait till all our papa karma is finished and then become bhakta. Because many people, they will come out and say that, oh, now currently I am engaged in all these, abominable activity and I have this habit, that habit. So how will I start chanting Krishna's name? Nothing. Don't wait for anything. Because Krishna will take care. Okay. So with this, actually Krishna's Bhagavad Gita instructions get completed. And then he says that, if somebody is envious of me, you should not tell him this. If somebody is not austere, you should not tell him this. Yaidam paramam guhyam madbhakte swadid abhidasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mame vaishyatya samshaya. But then Krishna says, for one who explains this, Yaidam paramam guhyam, this supreme secret, if somebody explains to devotees, then for him pure devotional service is guaranteed. So why should we teach Bhagavad Gita? Why should we preach Bhagavad Gita is that, so that by doing this, we get pure devotional service. And he says, Mame Vaishyat Asamsheha. So without a doubt, at the end, you will come to me. So it's all the more important that not only studying Bhagavad Gita, also to preach Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna gives one more encouragement for that. In Shloka 69, Krishna says, Nachattasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakrittamaha bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. He says, Anya priyataro bhuvi. There is nobody dearer to me. There is no servant in this world dearer to me than he, nor there will be ever one more dear. So, and then he says that anybody who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence, and one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. And then Krishna asks Arjuna, are your illusions now dispelled? Nashtamoho smridirlabdva. Arjuna will say as a reply, O Krishna, Tvatprasadan mayachyuta. So Arjuna will say, Nashtamoha smritirlabdva. Moha is gone, smriti has come back. Mat prasadat tvaya achyuta. Hey Achyuta, by your mercy, I have now heard, understood, all my moha has gone. Now I am ready. Karishye vachanam tava. I am prepared to act according to your instructions. So in the beginning, at the end of chapter 1, Arjuna told, I am putting down Gandiva, O Govinda, I shall not fight. Now, end of chapter 18, Arjuna tells Krishna, what? Karishye vachanam tava. I shall do as you say. This is surrender. So, then Sanjaya will say that because of my Guru Vyasadeva, I am able to see this wonderfully transcendental conversation of Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield, and I have heard all these most confidential subjects I have heard. And he is telling Dhritarashtra, I am becoming thrilled at every moment as I repeatedly recall this holy dialogue of Arjuna, Krishna and Arjuna. And he says, as I remember that wonderful form of Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno yatra partho dhanurdhara tatra shrirvijayo bhutir dhruvanitir matir mama. Now Sanjaya delivers his verdict. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, wherever there is Krishna who is a Yogeshwara, the master of all yogis, and wherever Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, where Partha holding his dhanus, wherever he is there, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir, there is certainly Shri, opulence is there. There is Vijaya, victory, and Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. There is extraordinary power and morality. That is my opinion. So, Dhritarashtra's question was, what was my sons and Pandu's sons going to do? Samaveta Yuyutsava Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata. That was the question, first beginning. Now, Sanjaya gave him very clear understanding, your sons are going to be finished. So, the living entity, the Jiva, is actually in our original position, we are all pure spirit soul. An atomic particle of the supreme spiritual person called Krishna. And Krishna like the sun, and we are all like sunshine. And because we are marginal energy of Krishna, Tatastha Shakti, we have the tendency to be either with the Bahiranga Shakti, that is a material energy, or the Antaranga Shakti, that is a spiritual energy. So, the living entity, the Jiva, is actually Tatastha, situated between neither here nor there. But we belong to the superior energy. And we have some minute independence. Actually, we are Paratantra, but very tiny Swatantra that is there. By using that Swatantra properly, we can come directly under the order of Krishna, and then we can attain that Satchidananda position of ours. So, this is how Srila Prabhupada concludes this chapter. This is how the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita gets concluded. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita Grantharaj ki jai.